I'm looking today at Let Go, In the Flow. And you may notice some of these songs have to do with water, raining or the storm passing by. And I don't know if have you ever gone whitewater rafting? Have you ever been in one of those rafts and gone down the rapids? I've done it numerous times. I love it. I love the feel of the ice cold water splashing on me. I love the sound of the roaring water. I love, steering around. At one point, I helped the guide. I was in the back to help paddle and steer the raft. It was a great time to steer around those rocks and to follow that current. And what you notice is that the strongest current is in the path of the least resistance. So the strongest current goes around the rocks, goes through the channels around the rocks, and it's just an amazing thing to be a part of. When I was a teenager, I was in camp, and I was in a two-person raft, and I fell out of the raft. I was scared, even while I was in the raft. It felt unsteady. I was unsure what to do. It was just two young teenage boys, no tour guide or anything. And I fell into the water. It may have been because I was afraid. The person in the boat with me was pretty ornery, so they may have actually tried to get me out of the raft. But in any case, I ended up going down the rapids by myself. And somehow, using the power of understanding, now we had had an orientation beforehand, but using the power of understanding, I knew what to do. I knew I needed to stay on my back and keep my face up so that I could breathe. I knew I needed to keep my feet in front of me, to use my feet, my legs as shock absorbers if I was to encounter a rock. And I want to draw some parallels here because we are in turbulent times. We are in times of great change. To me, it is like the rapids where there's bumps and twists and turns, and sometimes people fall out. It's a challenging time. Right now, with jobs and unemployment and economy, there's so many things happening. Health concerns, justice and equality concerns. There's so many changes going on in our lives. Many of us are feeling this sense of separation. This last week, I had a dental procedure. Went into the dentist's office. You talk about distancing. They had one patient on one end of this large clinic and then me on the other end of this large clinic. So there would be no cross-contamination. And the dentist was covered head to toe in personal protection equipment, I mean, she had on an N95 mask, and then a surgical mask over that, and then a face shield, and then a thing on top of her head, and then gloves, and then a gown, and then stuff covering her shoes. I mean, she was all gowned up. And so it felt quite safe, and it actually brought me to tears afterwards. Because, other than my wife, this is the closest contact, sustained contact I've had with anybody. And to not have a mask on, I realized in that moment how isolated I felt. Many of us, this has been a challenging time. For some of you, it's just fine and dandy. You're fine in your home and you got plenty of stuff to do and you're happy, but for some of us, this has been a very challenging time. So it reminds me of those rapids, trying to navigate the ups and downs, the twists and turns, the times where we may feel like we're going under, the times of exhilaration, and maybe the times of fear. To me, the rapids are a good picture of what this time is like. So, first, keep your face up. That is, so you can continue to breathe. And what I mean by that is, stay connected with your source. Stay connected with your source, just like you stay connected to breathing. Keep your face up. Keep your face turned to your source, to God, to your higher power, to your higher presence. Keep your face up, attuned and aligned with that source. Don't get flipped over. Don't get lost in this. Keep your face up. Lay back. Relax. I know that sounds paradoxical. Going down the rapids, how could I relax? I thought, well, the water is pushing me. It's not going to help me to push against it. I'm not going to have the power to push against this. I'm not going to try to swim against these rapids. Why not go with the flow? Now, mind you, going with the flow doesn't mean just being limp, but I intentionally stayed on my back and floated on the water, and the power of the water was pushing me. Why not work with the force that is pushing me? There is that surrounds you and is with you at all times, that is there backing you up and supporting you and holding you up. You may think that you're in difficult times. You may feel like it's desperate times, but the power of Spirit is upholding you and carrying you, just like the waters of that rapid. It's amazing how it can just carry you. And it's taking the course of least resistance. So it's not intentionally going to crash you into the rocks. If you're going with the flow, you tend to go around the rocks. Be in the flow. I remember talking to a Sufi leader, instructor, coach, and this particular coach was having a coaching session with me. And she said this. She said, Tim, you keep waiting to know enough, to learn enough. You keep studying and taking classes and doing this and doing this, thinking someday if you take enough classes and if you study enough and if you learn enough, that then you will be able to lead in ministry, that then you will be able to do what you feel called to do. She said, you need to just jump in. What you will find if you jump in is that the water will support you. What you will find is that there will be someone on the side that if you get in trouble, will be there to help you. What you will find is that if you're needing something, someone will be there to bring it to you. Trust and jump in the water. This is like my lifeguard story. Trust that that water will support you. Jump in. The water's fine. Did you know that there is a conspiracy going on? We hear, if you're on social media, you hear about all kinds of conspiracy theories. Oh my goodness, there's no shortage of conspiracy theories. But there actually is a conspiracy I want to tell you about. There's a conspiracy going on by the presence of God, by the universe, to benefit you, to act on your behalf. You have this unlimited good, this one power, this one presence that is holding you up and is for you. And as Paul said in Romans chapter 8, if God be for you, who can be against you? You have this power, this support holding you up. Be in the flow. Allow it. Allow the presence of Spirit to guide you, to lead you. Keep your face up, connected with Source, breathing in that Source. Let the power of Spirit, the presence of God, the universe uphold you. It's got your back. I was just reading in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 22, where Krishna is saying that the one who is fully devoted and worships, I will provide whatever that one lacks and preserve whatever they have. It's like God promising, I will be there no matter what you lack. Jesus promised that. Jesus in Matthew chapter 28 said, I am with you always, even unto the end of the age. I am with you always. In Psalms 139, we hear that if we go up into the heavens, God is there. If we make our bed in the grave, God is there. No matter where we are, God is. Over and over and over in the Hebrew Scriptures, Christian Scriptures, other kind of Scriptures, what I read is God is there. In fact, when you get down to it, God is all there is. So why not trust that presence, that power to uphold you, to lift you up? That power and that presence will propel you forth to do exactly what you are here to do, hold you up, and be with you at all times. And you want to keep your legs and your feet in front of you. Yeah, there will be some bumps. There will be some obstacles. There will be some things that will come along. But don't give up just because something comes up. Don't give up just because something comes up in your path. Do not be afraid. In Isaiah, it says, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. Why? Because you are filled and surrounded with the presence of Spirit, the presence of God. This presence is there. Again, in Acts chapter 17, in God we live, move, and have our being. You cannot escape it. This presence surrounds us and upholds us. To me, the word surrender does not mean giving up necessarily. Rather, to me, it means allowing that presence of Spirit to be there, to hold us up. And use what you have. Use those legs. Use what you have to bounce off of those obstacles, knowing that the power of Spirit is propelling you forth to do what is yours to do. In his 94th year, one of the co-founders of the Unity movement, Charles Fillmore, said, I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm to do that which ought to be done by me. In his 94th year, he was filled with this power of enthusiasm and zeal. Let that power flow in, through, and as you. Let it carry you. And let your feet do the walking. Let your feet engage with the presence of Spirit where Spirit is leading you to go. Do not be afraid. We hear this over and over in the Hebrew Scriptures and in the Christian Scriptures. Do not be afraid. This was spoken to the Hebrew people in the beginning of Joshua, where Joshua was going to be taking over as these people had been wandering through the wilderness for 40 years. And God said, do not be afraid. When the shepherds were out in their fields as Jesus was being born, and there were the heavenly hosts, the angels filling the skies, what were they told? Do not be afraid. Over and over and over, the message of God to us revealed in Scripture is fear not. In the New Testament, the Christian Scriptures, in 1 John, it says, perfect love casts out all fear. Perfect love casts out all fear. Allow that love, that presence that God is, to cast out all fear. The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear. When we are aligned with the presence of love, when we are aligned with the presence of God, when we are keeping our face up, connected with our source, when we are letting the power of Spirit uphold us, conspiring on our behalf, when we are keeping our feet in front of us, going where we need to go, when we are doing all of that, we are in the flow of love, and love casts out all of our fear. Fear not. Be of good cheer. Be filled with joy, no matter what the circumstances, knowing that the power and the presence of God is holding you up and leading you. Blessings to you wherever you are. Know that God is. Please join me in these affirmations. Where I am, God is. Where God is, there is joy. There is love. There is peace. I let go of fear. I embrace the power of Spirit. It holds me up. There is nothing for me to fear. And so it is. Amen.